we're live. We're live. It's happening. It's really happening.
That's the sort of thing that you couldn't do on real TV nowadays, is it?
Yeah, the news people never go, oh my God, the red light's on. The red light's on. No, it is. It does seem to be less professional, I guess.
But when you think of all the TV we've done over the years, it's still super exciting, isn't it? When the live button goes, it's like, oh my God.
Oh my God, it's real. It's real. It's really happening. So if you are just joining us, this is episode 7 of Might Help, Can't Hurt, Conversations with Leaders, Doers, and Friends. And today I am conversing with my leader-doer friend, Robert Holden, who we have known. Did we figure out, was it 15 years we've known each other?
I think it's there or thereabouts. It must be about 15 years, I think. And I tested you with whether this would be a real friendship or not, if you remember, because we went out to dinner.
Oh, I remember.
And I didn't bring my wallet. And this was the test that I clearly had for you. I laid this test upon you at the end of the meal, when obviously I then realized, and you have to trust me on this, that I then realized that I didn't have a wallet on me. And so you very graciously paid for the meal, and that meant we really had to have another meal together, just to be able to repay the debt. And one thing led to another.
Yeah, that isn't actually the worst time. The worst one. And Robert wrote about this in the foreword to my book, The Space Within. But the worst one was, so Robert and I, I'll just tell my version and you can fill in. But Robert and I are speaking in Tampa, and we think, it'd be great to go somewhere where we can have a really nice bottle of wine, because Robert loves wine. I'm learning. And somebody says, Burns Steakhouse. It was Cheryl Richardson, I think, who said, you got to go to Burns Steakhouse. So we go to Burns Steakhouse, and Robert says, very graciously at the beginning of the meal, how much money are you up for spending tonight? Because it was the kind of place you could pretty much spend as much money as you wanted. And I came up with a number which was a sixth of my fee. So Robert was a keynote. So I've never asked, but I suspect your fee was a lot bigger than mine. So I put out a number that was a sixth of my fee. I thought that was a reasonable thing to have an amazing meal. And when the bill came, my share of the bill was more than half of my fee. In fact, it may have been pretty close. And I remember kind of drunkenly phoning my wife, Nina, and who held it against you for a good year, and saying, honey, I'm really sorry, but I've spent all the money that I'm supposed to be making here having dinner with Robert Holden. And so, come on, now that's a friendship.
Yeah, that is.
We're talking.
That is. We're still talking, and I just want to say it was one of the most romantic nights of my life. It was beautiful. Yeah, it was a beautiful dinner, and I'll never ever forget it.
We'll always have Tampa.
We will.
Other things that just haven't been said enough in the world.
Yeah. Well said.
So the real reason, you're probably wondering why I asked you here today. The real reason is to kind of see, and we've talked about this a bit, and I don't want to, pretend we haven't, but to see how you doing? Mm-hmm. This is such an unusual time. Mm-hmm. It is certainly in my lifetime, along with maybe 9/11, the most dramatic shift in global attention I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and how you're one of the world's leading experts on happiness and success. Mm-hmm. How you doing?
Yeah, well, I think I can take that on different levels. I think on an emotional level, I feel like each and every day, it feels like the gamut of the human emotions just sort of blows through me. So I'm actually really aware of it's a heightened feeling of the spectrum of the human emotions. So there's a moment when there's everything in there. There's fear, there's optimism, there's despair. there's confusion, there's clarity. You know, it's like there's every feeling really about this whole damn thing is really up. Frustration, partly because I still don't really know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, the actual profile for this virus hasn't actually been revealed yet, partly because I think we don't know what the profile of it is even. Yeah. So I'm often dealing with the frustration, but when I really tune into that, that's probably got a lot more to do with the fact that I can't control the future at the moment.
Are you normally good at? Do you normally control the future? Are you the person to go to if I want the future controlled?
Well, there we are. That's it, isn't it? It's precisely that. It's like, you know, then you get that moment when you go, oh yeah, so actually, so you were in control of the future, were you before? You know, and then you go, oh, okay. So, you know, I feel like life is like under a magnifying glass right now in some ways. And like everything that I always used to feel, I'm feeling more than ever before.
Yeah.
Mentally, I would say if I'm running through my centers for a minute, like, you know, that's my emotional report for you.
Yeah.
Like mental report, this might sound a little odd, but I love bees. I really love bees. And I study bees. Okay, and bear with me. But bees
oh, I'm bearing.
Yeah, bees have compound eyes. And depending on who you talk to, they have 5,000 lenses in each eye, and possibly more than that. And what I notice is that I'm often like looking at this whole experience through different lenses. Like sometimes it's my economics lens, sometimes it's my political lens, sometimes, you know, it comes more from a spiritual lens, sometimes it comes from a conspiracy lens. You know, like, I mean, there's so many lenses through which to look at this. And so again, what I'm doing is I'm doing my best to watch that, really pay attention, and then see if I can find that wise voice, if you like, inside that helps me attend to the present moment, so as to help, you know, so as to be ready to sort the future out one day at a time. So that's a mental lens for you. Spiritually, well, the one thing I do know what to do whenever life feels all too much is to come back to my spiritual practice. And when I come back to my spiritual practice, it's a way of me coming back to the present moment and realizing on some level that like everything's changed, Michael, but actually in some ways nothing's really changed, because the world is still transient. There's still life and death. There's still the present moment. Yeah, the world is still a state of mind. I knew that before. You know, I know it even more now. But in a lot of ways, there's a lot of things that haven't really changed. And also, I think it really is true that a friend of ours, Louise Hay, used to say, the point of power is in the present moment. And my spiritual practice brings me back to my present moment. And that's really, really helpful. And then from there, I do feel I can like step into the day and handle the day in a reasonably good way. Good in the sense that it not with an absence of wobbles, but with plenty of wobbles. But but when I'm wobbling, and I'm wobbling in a pretty, you know, okay way.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, and I first heard it from George Pransky, was the kind of the trick to life is to be grateful for the highs and graceful with the lows.
Yeah,
and that's sort of the you know the feeling is, and it's not like the highs and lows out there; it's in here.
Yeah,
like, there are times where the world really looks like my oyster. Like,
yes, yeah.
Now, and then there are other times where it's like, we're screwed. Run. But it's not like there's anywhere to run. So
yeah.
You know, and it's just sort of, I have surprised myself at how okay I've been with how not okay I've been.
There we are. I love that, Michael, because I think there's a beautiful word called, you know, equanimity. and equanimity is this capacity to hold what you're experiencing with a certain amount of okayness. Yeah. And I'd call that okayness love. It's the capacity to feel as if you can hold your experience with some compassion and some love, where you recognize, well, look, I'm feeling really human right now. My nervous system's wobbling. My heart is feeling everything. My mind's got these 5,000 lenses, and I don't know which one to look through. And with all of that going on, I'm doing my best to find a way to come back to center and to feel somehow empowered and grounded and supported and through the whole process. There's definitely, I think initially, if I really start to track it now, I think there was clearly denial. That was just really, really, obvious. It was like, oh, this is all a fuss about nothing. Yeah, it's not going to really happen, etc., etc. Then I think there was this next stage where it really was about battening down the hatches and making sure we could get food and doing all of those sorts of things, and it's interesting just tracking the different sort of stages with it, and certainly the feeling of what often happens for me, Michael, nothing's ever been as big as this before, but often it's this feeling of like something is interrupting my schedule right now. Yeah, this is interrupting my schedule. And then there's a moment when it's like, when I finally realize, no, wait a minute, this is my schedule. Yeah, I saw it as the interruption to the schedule, but actually this is my schedule now. And once again, to another point, on a certain level, nothing's changed. COVID existed already. Pandemics existed already. There are still more people dying of malaria on the planet every day than of COVID, for sure. I, for some reason, was too busy to really pay attention to that and really notice that. I'm not too busy right now to pay attention to COVID, and actually, in a way, I'm not too busy to understand that there are at least 17 pandemics on the planet right now. I was just busy in my bubble, getting on with my own life. And I don't mean to criticize myself for that, but I do. What I would say is that I think one of the things that I'm learning here is that there's an invitation for me to widen my circle of awareness, and even to widen my circle of love, to realize that actually for some people, COVID is actually down the list in terms of real issues that they have to deal with on a daily basis, like whether their baby is going to have enough water today, for instance, to survive the whole day. I mean, it's crazy to think that happens on this planet like this, but it does, doesn't it? And I don't know, I just think maybe there's a way at the moment where this whole experience is helping me to be maybe more of a fully paid up member of the human being club than I've been before. Like a fully paid up member.
I was sharing on a program I was doing earlier today, one of my all-time favorite quotes, and the way I introduced it there is how I'll introduce it here, which is, I think if one day I actually understand this, I will disappear, and like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, and become part of the Force. But it's a Sid Banks quote when he said, "If the only thing people learned was not to be afraid of their experience, that would change the world." And one of the things that I've noticed is, as I've gotten less afraid of being afraid, less afraid of being sad, less afraid of being angry, less afraid of being frustrated, it's not that I spend that much more time in those feelings. It's I'm more willing to look in places that I was afraid to look, see things that I didn't want to see. I was afraid of how I would feel if I saw them. And I think there's almost a bizarre kind of a safety in seeing that what I see can't hurt me, that I am okay. and that I will experience things. And there are sometimes things I can do. Apparently, neither of us need to control the future because Holly, your wife's got it. but which is good. But but there's less of a sense of needing to do.
Yeah.
More of a sense of kind of being along for the ride and helping out where I can.
Mm. Yeah. Feels good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. So so we're doing a program, Spiritual Resilience Mastermind.
Yes.
And we sort of came up with 3 phrases to kind of describe what it's about, what spiritual resilience is about. And the 3 are, the death of normal, reimagining the future, and better together. And the one I particularly am just interested in because it made me think, because it's not the death of normal. I talk to so many people who are waiting for things to go back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the death of normal, when I think about it, both feels a little scary, but kind of liberating, kind of exciting. Like, ooh, you mean normal's not going to be normal? There'll be so what would you talk to me about that? Because like, what do you, because that's something you talk about a lot. And I've never really paid attention until now. I mean, I love listening. Yeah, I could listen to your accent. You could just read the phone book, Robert. I would love it. But what the hell?
Yeah. Well, it's been for about 20 years. Well, it was 20 years ago that I wrote a book called Shift Happens.
Yeah.
And I wrote that. So it was 1999 on the eve of a new millennium. And I was in reflective mood, thinking about, well, what are the changes that are going to happen? And I was very much drawing really upon the metaphor of a mirror, really, which is that, that the world by itself doesn't really exist. It exists because of us. And actually, there's no point in thinking the world's going to change if we're not going to change. So let's do it from the inside out, if you like.
Yeah.
And let's see what would it take to have a different experience of the world. Not just change the world, but actually have a different experience of the world. And one of the things that I think I addressed was almost like the tyranny of normal, and how normal in many ways holds us back in so many different ways. Anyway, over the years, I got asked to start giving keynotes on Shift Happens. So I was giving keynotes, and I was really talking like a futurist about the future of humanity, but really from a sort of a psychodynamic point of view. Not so much how technology is going to be different and everything, but how we're going to have to be different. If this world is going to evolve fundamentally in the direction of love rather than in the direction of fear. So one of the things that we addressed was the death of normal. It was often where I'd start. And in a way, it's quite interesting with normal, because whatever, I would suggest this, whatever your view of normal is, just do a little bit of research on how long your definition of normal has really existed for. So, for example, a lot of people in
no, I can just look it up on my phone. How long? Oh, wait. That's your point.
There we go. But a lot of us in the Western world, our definition of normal, for example, included 2 parents, 2 children. That was the definition of normal. So then you go, hold on a minute. Well, how long did that really last? How long has that been in evidence for? Because you've got to remember there was a world war where millions of people got killed. So then you've also got to go back to another world war before that where more millions of people got killed. And then you've also got to go back actually just to the sort of the end of the 1800s, and where you realize that there was hardly ever 2 parents and 2 children. And actually, if you go back a little more than that, you've got in the marriage vows, till death us do part. Well, that was really easy because no one lived after 30. I mean, it was easy to do.
Not really a big deal.
I'll
take that risk.
It's like, sure, we're only alive for 10 years. I can handle that. but till death us do part now, like, you know, it's like, but the point is, you get the point.
He doesn't mean you, Holly. He doesn't mean you. It's fine.
I'm just talking. But it is just, you know, our normal is what we think of as normal didn't exist, you know, for very, very long. So it was a made up normal, number one, but also let's really look at this normal that apparently we're all meant to cooperate with. How good was it really? And was it really that good? I mean, and how many people was it good for? You know, I mean, and quite honestly, it wasn't good for many people. It was good for some, but not for many. So what seems to have to happen is that we, in a way, in order to grow and evolve, we have to be willing to keep letting go of normal. In other words, to keep letting go of the form, to keep letting go of structures. You know, if we stay inside a structure, all of a sudden, you know, I think that's when we're not growing anymore. We've got to be willing to let the structures fall away. We've got to be willing right now to let everything, you know, break apart. So let's let things fall away. But as they're falling away, you know, a lovely phrase that's coming to my mind is from Thoreau. Thoreau said, the soul reveals itself through subtraction. Yeah, it's like it knows itself through subtraction. Sometimes you've got to let stuff go. And for a lot of us, we intend to let stuff go, and we might never get around to really letting it go unless we're pushed. Right now, we're all being pushed. We've all got to let things go. And we're letting go of our idea of what a normal world is, or what a normal day is, or what a normal routine is. And it's very, very scary for the self that's identified with all of that normal. But let's take a moment and say, well, maybe that normal could be replaced by a better normal, so to speak.
Yeah. And
that's a good thing. So let's sign up for that. Let's sign up for, in the middle of this chaos, in the middle of this great suffering, and there is great suffering here, let's see if we can give birth to a great love that is going to create a better world out for us out of this. And that's partly what the death of normal means for me. You know, you mourn the death of normal. Let's let it go. It was here, but it wasn't all it was meant to be. And it had a very short history anyway. That's the point. Yeah. It wasn't forever. It wasn't reality. I think that's the key. Normal, our version of normal, is not reality. And anyway, it's over now. So let's not be normal. Let's enjoy the relief of not trying to be normal if we can. We're going to grieve that we can't be normal, but let's also see if we can begin to get a bit of an excitement for not being normal. And let's see if we can be not normal with how we do politics in the future. Let's see if we could be not normal about how we create our economic models in the future. Let's see if we can be not normal about how we do business in the future. Let's not be normal. You know, let's be better than normal. Let's see if we can find something even more imaginative, you know, even kinder, you know, even more fun, even more love-based than ever before. So that's the idea, really, Michael.
Hippie.
Yeah. Well, hippie. Okay, how about this? There's a sort of a hippie bit in there, but I will tell you this. I think there's also, and this is something that I think the hippie movement never quite got the hang of, there's a surrender involved in this.
Yeah.
The hippie movement was great for freedom. You know, let's all be free. But I think actually real freedom is a surrender. And it's a surrender to something that is wiser than your own psychology, that knows how to love even more than your own heart does. And that it is a surrender to a higher power. And that's why we're creating a program called Spiritual Resilience. We're trying to let ourselves be inspired by a surrender to something greater than us.
Well, and it's the opposite of control.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, I think control and fear are a lot more intimately linked than we think.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not afraid, control is not my first impulse.
Yeah.
Surprise is, delight is, discovery is, exploration is. I only want to control when I'm scared of what might happen.
Yes.
Otherwise, control's the worst thing. I don't want to watch a movie where I control what's going to happen. I
Mm-hmm.
want to watch a movie where I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to read a book where I know what's going to happen. I want to read a book where I'm surprised by what happens. I don't want to live a life where I know what's going to happen. I want to live a life where I'm surprised by what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that opportunity is being laid in our laps.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with you. Again, I think that there's a compassion here that for the self-image, if you like, the ego, we definitely want to. There's a tendency to want to control things. Of course there is, and we have to recognize that. But if we're willing to pay attention to why we want to have something be controlled, there's a fear under there, precisely like you've said. Let's attend to that fear, because if we can attend to that fear with a genuine compassion, then maybe we won't need to pour all of our resources into being the most controlled person on the planet right now, who's going to show up positive and in denial that, that the world is fundamentally mourning the death of normal. So, yeah.
So I'm just actually thinking, we used to do a warm up for back when I was doing television. One of the warm up songs, for reasons I lost in the mists of my memory, was "We fear what we don't understand. We fear what we don't understand. We're off to burn the castle because we fear what we don't understand." And that's kind of true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm just seeing that Holly is really on the live link, isn't she?
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't making that up.
No, I know. I can see. She just said maybe you can't be normal and love-based at the same time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's something to talk about over dinner. Yeah. No, but I do like that. Do you know, in A Course in Miracles, I'm a student of A Course in Miracles, and there's a lesson that actually is coming up right now in the course where it says, it's a healed mind does not plan. A healed mind receives the plan that it is given. And it goes on to say that actually planning is a defense against life. And planning is an attempt to control the future. And actually, there's a world of difference between planning a life and actually living a guided life. And I think in any given moment we're caught between almost like planning and guiding. And I hope I'm being clear. It's not, the course isn't saying don't make plans. It's saying go with the plan you receive rather than the plan I'm going to make up intellectually right now to make myself feel safe for the next few weeks or months.
Do you guys have The Amazing Race in as a TV show over there?
No,
So,
I don't know what
The Amazing Race. It's basically I don't even know if it's still on over here, but it's a show where these pairs of people are given a clue, and the clue gets them to the next clue. Right, and the next clue it takes them all over the world, and whoever win. I've always thought that is one of the best metaphors for life there is. We can cheat it. And figure out 4 steps ahead. The what we know now is just taking us to the next clue.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And I love that. And I think, what I tried to do, particularly with a book called Lovability, and also actually the book that I co-wrote with Louise Hay called Life Loves You, was to see if we could get back to this thing that psychologists sometimes call basic trust. What if, in spite of the chaos, in spite of the messiness, what if somehow what's happening is in some ways for like our highest purpose? What if there is something here that in the big scheme, okay, it's going to mess around with our rent, our ability to pay the rent. It's going to mess around with whether we have a mortgage or not, or savings or not, but on another level, a profound level, what if somehow this is going to help us be a better human being? What if this is going to help us to remember what's real? What if this is going to help us truly to choose love more completely, more fully than ever before? What if this is going to take us deeper into our spiritual practice than ever before? That sort of a thing. In Authentic Success, I said something like, in a world full of fast-track careers, designer clothing, disastrous headlines, and tragic football results, you have to remember what's real. And it's like that, I think, is what we're being asked to do at the moment, is to almost meditate on what's real. Yeah, because lots is going to fall away right now. But what's real and true, and that you are really prepared to live your life by. And I think whatever is real, you'll find is still with you. The capacity to choose love is still with you. You know, that's there. The capacity to be wise is still with you. Whatever is real is still here, strangely enough. And it's hard to always see it, but maybe conversations like this help each other remember that actually what's real is still here, and you are still loved, and there is still guidance, and there is still help, and beautiful things are happening. You know, beautiful things are happening where neighbors are actually talking to each other. Some of them for the first time ever, certainly on our road. Yeah, we know more about our neighbors now than we ever did before, for example. You know, beautiful things are happening. It's very human. You know, there's something incredibly human happening right now. And I think there's one of the big philosophical conversations that's been around for a few centuries has been, are humans good for the planet? And I think in some ways, you know, there's lots of answers to that.
It's a conversation that's happening with badgers, or like there are a lot of badgers or animals. What do we do about the human? You know, it's like just
yeah. Well, I wasn't aware of those conversations with the badgers. I was thinking more of the sort of these philosophers who write these 700-page books that are almost impossible to read. Those people. You know, because there are some people, you know, who have said, particularly some European philosophers who have said that life's a bad idea, and that actually it's not a good idea to even be alive. My sense is I think as we contact our humanity, we will come to see that our humanity is a good thing. There's a basic goodness in our humanity that if we call upon it, is going to help us come through this together in a stronger, more real and more loving way. But it does seem somehow we are being asked to, as I say, fully sign up as a human being right now, increase our circle of love. This is what Gandhi and Einstein both talked about so eloquently. If you can widen your circle of love to include the whole globe, you'll know what it is to be a human being. That is what we're being asked to do right now.
Well, and that seems like a pretty perfect place to bring our conversation to a close. If you want to learn more about Robert, go to robertholden.org.com. I don't know what.
Yeah, .com is good.
And if you want to learn more about our spiritual resilience program, you can go to spiritualresilience.club, which I didn't even know was a thing. .club till we found that.
There you are. I know, it's all new.
It's like the death of normal and a new future. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's so cool, isn't it?
Robert, an absolute delight as always. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you joined us live, and hope you've enjoyed the conversation, and you know, might help, can't hurt. Thank you very much, Robert. Bye.